something that stands out. You know, hey, this was what was great and does on Facebook or whatever, you know, whatever.
I didn't feel one of those numbers, not, I didn't know one of all those numbers, like car stops or this or that. I didn't know if you wanted more pertinent information. Maybe ticketed.
You got open door policies, so if it's something that goes down, raises an eyebrow with us, we can always just get, get more people.
Just do it where, I tell you what those tickets were.
Okay.
You know, tell you what those tickets, those written what they were.
Okay. All right.
I was trying to figure out something to do with something you can really get some meaning out of it.
Yeah.
Well, you're here with us, and we're gonna kind of shift everybody.
You're over here.
So that we'll
Okay.
we'll leave Mackey's open today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
What do I dial to get out? 9?
Or you can just get one of the lines, not either one.
Hey, are you there? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put you on speakerphone. We're getting ready to get started. All right. No joke. Rocky, can you hear me?
Yes, got the line clear.
Okay, just making sure. All right, we'll call our meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. And if you'll rise, stand with me. We're going to start our meeting tonight with a moment of silence for former Councilman Dr. Mackey. So, and then after the moment of silence, Pastor Mark Roberts will lead us in the invocation. Will you bow your heads?
Heavenly Father, we thank you so very much for the privilege it is to be able to gather tonight, and the freedom of being able to carry out civic duty, and the freedom of being able to carry out public interest. So God, I pray your blessings upon each of these councilmen. I pray your blessings upon this meeting. And everything that's said and done would be in accordance to your will and would be done in decency and in order. God, we do thank you for Dr. Mackey, the life, the legacy that he left us. He was just a man who served in so many capacities. For that, we say thank you. We were able to call him friend, to be able to know him, to worship with him, to serve with him in this community. God, we thank you. Bless his family, especially now, for the hedge of protection about them. Give them grace and comfort. For the remainder of this meeting, God, we thank you for it. We ask that you place it under your hands and under your control, that all things that would be done would be pleasing to you. We give you praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Would you join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Our first item is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Do I hear a motion that we approve the minutes?
Mayor Pro Tem, after looking at the minutes, if there are no changes to be made, I make a motion that they be accepted as presented.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from Councilman Pinkgood. Do I hear a second?
No second.
Second from Councilwoman Alston. All of those in favor, raise your hand. And it passes. The second item is public comments.
David May. Is it the same thing that I've actually done for a little more weight on that? Mark Roberts.
Mayor, glad you're able to join us by speakerphone. Good to hear from you tonight. I just like to publicly, I think we've sent this privately in the mail, but I wanted to publicly come and read this invitation and leave a copy with the Secretary for tonight. Honorable Mayor and Williamston Town Council, on Sunday, July 4, 2021, Calvary Baptist Church, Williamston, South Carolina, will be having its annual patriotic celebration. This service will be held at 10:30 a.m. During this service, we look forward to celebrating our nation's freedom, as well as honoring those who so faithfully serve our country and community. This year, we will also honor several of our community lifelong civic leaders with a special commendation, including 2 former Williamston City Council members. It is with that in mind that I want to say, your service as leaders of our town and community is greatly appreciated. We feel like too often it goes unappreciated, if not altogether unrecognized. Therefore, we would like to formally extend an invitation to you to be our special guest at this service, July 4th, and to be a part of the special recognition and honor you. Following the service, we ask that you and your families be extended an invitation to stay as our special guest for a lunch in our church gymnasium. We look forward to hosting you and hopefully celebrating your service as civic leader. Yours in Christ, Reverend Mark Roberts. Thank you. We do appreciate all you give us to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all, okay. Then we'll move on to the special request reports. Pam Owens.
Council, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor, I want to come to you today to request, I know it sounds a little bit early, but the Boo in the Park, money for the candy for Boo in the Park, and we want to be sure we go ahead and get on the list, and we would like to request $600 for that. Everything else has went up, and I figure some of the stuff we will need to go up to. So I would like to make that request for $600. And the Historic Commission, along with that, we would like to ask for $650 to do work inside the hut. On the shutters and stuff, we want to see about replacing them. I don't know if it'll cost more than that, but I know it's going to cost at least that to do some of the work we need. And I do notice down here, y'all got our cemetery committee down for $3,500. I'm on the cemetery committee. Does that still hold? Requesting $3,500? It's on the agenda here.
It doesn't list a speaker. Do you know who was going to speak?
The mayor asked me to put that on there just because they have met with y'all in the work session.
Okay.
And it, I mean, any of us that's on there can come and speak. And I am one on there. So we would like to request that $3,500 for the cemetery committee also.
Okay.
So where do you think we stand on these requests that we have?
Are you wanting an additional $600 on top of what we've already budgeted for the coming cycle?
Oh, I just want 600 flat. I don't want 500, 550, I want 600 total.
And the reason why I ask is because coming up in our next budget cycle, we actually have, for Boo in the Park and the Historic Committee, a little over $2,000 budgeted. So that's well above what you're asking for.
How is she getting? I never
It-
asked.
No,
for
y'all
2,000.
usually get 550,
Yeah.
and the rest goes to Diane Wallace.
So that's
for the
not
line
it.
for the rest. Yeah, that's kind of lumped together,
Okay,
because it's the same event.
okay.
But all we asking for is
$650.
Because we work out of the hut,
Mhm.
is what we do. And we decorate it and everything, and that's our thing throughout the night, is the hut. And our historic commission skeletons and everything. I'm sure you hadn't ever seen that, and some of you have. But, anyway, so I'm requesting just a total of 600 for our committee, which is historic committee. And that will be for the Boo in the Park. And then, where it says the historic commission, I'm also asking for the other money, to do some work on the shutters are getting in bad shape. If people just worked it right, they could break in there easy and go in, and we
Gotcha.
got things we don't want.
Yeah, I actually took a look at that last week,
Do
and
you?
they do need work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do need work. I agree to that.
Thank you.
So can y'all give me an answer since I'm on the agenda? Did I miss
We'll
anything?
get to it when we get to the budget. Is that fine?
You the council?
Okay.
Okay, so as a all right, on the cemetery was 3,500. So what do I need to go back and report on that?
Again, when we vote to the budget, we'll discuss the.
So you have that down, so when you get to it.
Yes, ma'am.
I do appreciate it.
All righty.
Thank you.
You're welcome. David Mead.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Council and Mayor by phone, I'm here to speak on that council on the Springwater Festival coming up August 27th and 28th of this year. As you know, the Springwater Festival is one of the oldest and longest running festivals in Williamston and one of the oldest in the upstate. This year will be our 40th anniversary, and coming out of the COVID situation over the last year, and we're looking for this festival to be a really good one, a really big one. A lot of people out celebrating. With that in mind, we're making some changes and adding some new attractions. Just to give you an update, most of the normal attractions are going to go on as they have in the past. The auto show, the crafts fair, business displays and exhibits, and other special exhibits. We're going to have a living statue, West Allen Williams living statue guy here in the amusement ride. We're going to have a different company this year that's bringing some new and exciting rides for children. And we're going to have a special free children's activities going on. We're partnering with the Wesleyan Alive Church that did the Easter egg hunting at the park earlier. And they're excited about coming on board with that, and I think that's going to be a lot. We're working on the entertainment, and basically, I have 3 requests from council, our council tonight. And first on the list is we would like to extend the festival hours, mainly on Saturday, from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. We'd like to go later in the evening on Saturday. Friday hours will remain the same, 6 to 10. Request number 2 is a new one. We're asking council to consider allowing us to have alcohol available during the evening entertainment concert hours of the festival on both days. And that basically would be craft beer from a professional vendor. And with that request in mind, just want to mention a few things. We're working to remain a family-friendly event. If the alcohol is approved, it will be in a confined area in front of the amphitheater stage, clearly marked, closely monitored in a very controlled environment. It would be provided by professional vendors subject to all state guidelines. We're looking to try to reach a demographic that maybe we've been missing in the past, young adults and others that for whatever reason have not consider our festival, our hometown festival, an attraction. So in addition to the events that we normally have, we would like to consider that. And request number 3, we've had some discussion on this. We've had some problems in recruiting our festival food vendors due to the mobile food vending ordinance. And I think we've got 4 committed at this point. Normally, we have 10, 11, or 12, and we usually have those lined up by March or April. I mean, that's one of the first things we get lined up at the food vendors. But I'm not sure exactly why they're hesitant or reluctant, slow to come in on that, but we're looking at it. And I'm going to ask council to consider maybe a waiver from the Springwater Festival on that new mobile food vending ordinance this year, since we're coming out of COVID and trying to get things back. So basically, we've got those 3 requests. And, that's about it.
Do you know what part of the ordinance that you're having conflict with?
Right now, I can't speak to that. I'm going to have our food coordinator here. I think he had a conflict tonight. So I don't know why they're hesitant. He's been in contact with them, and Debbie's working with the ones that have called, the ones that contact the town to work through the process. And it seems pretty streamlined to me at this point, but I don't know why the ones that are hesitant or slow coming in or holding off. I think part of it may be there's so many other events and festivals going on, and they're just not used to having to deal with that extra paperwork that's being required. And we've had a lot of discussion in our spring water committee meeting about festival vendors and mobile food vendors. So that's, right now, that's about all input I can give on it. I don't know why they're being slow.
I would love to request more information on what the issue would be before we try to make any decision going forward.
Well, at this point, I'll leave it up to you guys. The first 2 requests on my priority tonight, the food vending waiver or whatever, could be put off for further discussion or more input at some point.
Just a point of clarification for me is this something that is the Springwater Committee has decided, or is this something that we as council have to vote on?
As far as
Like the extended hours and the selling of the alcohol? Is this just something that committee decides?
I'm not sure. It's mainly for information.
Okay.
And to make council aware that if we go to extended hours, probably need police security, some extra security later in the day. I mean, it's just going later. We've gone to 8 o'clock in the past. Haven't seen any problem with that. We'd like to go later to have entertainment later in the evening and see how that works for us.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David.
Is that it?
Thanks, sir. All right, moving on to committee reports. We have a report from the zoning committee. I believe Marion Williams is here.
Mayor Pro Tem and council, thank you for your time. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys. We have one of our members who moved away to Greenville, and you guys appointed Barry Thompson to be on our committee. Appreciate that. He'll be a great member for us. Appreciative of that. Since that member moved away, we had to re-elect our officers. I stayed as chair. Vice chair is Beth Wilson, and Steve Foster remained as our secretary. Other member is Pastel Lewis. So we've had 2 different items that have come to us in the last couple of months. In April, we had the board approved a variance for property that was at the corner of Cherokee and Madison. There was a lot there that the developer wanted to split, and we as a committee granted that variance. Then in May, we met again. There was 2 The first one was a variance, splitting a lot that was on Dove Street. And they wanted to split that into two different parcels. Our committee decided to reject that variance, so that variance was not granted. The second application dealt with property that was the same developer, property that was between Dove and Belton Highway. They wanted to split that property into 5 different lots, 2 lots that would be on Dove and 3 lots that would be on Belton Highway. Our committee decided to grant a variance, except there would be 2 lots that would be granted on to Dove Avenue, and then 2 that would be on Belton Highway. Okay? So they did not get exactly what they wanted in that variance, but we did grant a variance and changing it from 2 lots to 4 lots. Usually our committee doesn't have to meet often, but it seems like lately we've had to meet a lot, and that's because we've got a lot of development going on. And that's good for the town, but we want to make sure we're doing the right decisions and granting any variances to property owners. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next report is from the planning committee, and since they're not here tonight, I will just read their note here. Again, this is from the planning committee. At this month's meeting, the planning committee discussed the rezoning of a portion of Mahaffey Road, recommending rezoning from I-2 to multifamily residential. They also discussed the ACE development and the fact that the plans meet the zoning and other ordinance requirements and would not need to be rezoned or changed. Moving on to old business, item number 1, second reading on the 2021-2022 budget ordinance. Do I hear a motion to accept the ordinance?
As presented, so moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Haygood. Is there a second?
A second.
There's a second by Councilwoman Austin. Any discussion? I would like to make an amendment, and offer an amendment, a motion for an amendment to add in the general fund line items 590, 5,000, 5100, 5101, and 5102. These are in reference to the newly created fire chief position. And so these were not in the first reading of the budget. So I'm making a motion that we add those to the budget.
I'll second.
We have a second by Mayor Burgess. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, go ahead.
So what's the total amount on all those items?
The total amount comes to $20,445.30. And that includes salaries, FICA, Medicare, retirement, and fire insurance.
And with your amendment, would the adjustments also be made to where we would stay balanced?
Well,
Yes.
these are the ones that changed. This was what was proposed. This is what it changed to.
Okay.
So these are small. This is the largest change here for the insurance.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, I call for the question. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. And opposed?
Aye.
Right. The motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before we go too much further, you might want to check with our town attorney on the, I couldn't understand what, Mr. Mead was saying, but I think I understood, he was requesting for alcohol in the park, the Springwater, Festival at certain hours. Again, I didn't understand what he was saying, but I believe we have to take a vote on that, anytime, that request is made.
Okay. All right, then we will move that to the final item if that's okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, is there any discussion on the motion to approve the budget as amended? Hearing none, I call for the question. All in favor of approving the 2021-2022 budget as amended, say aye.
Aye.
And the budget is approved unanimously. Moving on to item 2 under old business, second reading of an ordinance to rezone property located near Town Square Shopping Center.
I move that this ordinance be accepted as presented.
We have a motion to approve the ordinance from Councilman Haygood. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Councilwoman Alston. Any discussion? Brain, would you like to take a second and just kind of go over this for us briefly? This is, we're just rezoning it,
Right, this is, all we're doing here is just rezoning that one piece of property. It's listed in that survey that was done for Ingalls, that's now been recorded. There were some questions regarding it was, it needed to be rezoned in order to match what they're trying to do, and that's why we had this amendment to put it to core commercial.
okay. And I will read the ordinance, I will just read the title here, and it says, an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the town of Williamston. And again, this is in reference to the properties there at the Town Square Shopping Center. Any more discussion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, it's my understanding that almost all of the property over there is already core commercial, and this would just, because of the, when Ingalls acquired the property, they acquired a portion of some lots that the zoning was unclear on. So I think this would just be to clear it up, that it was core commercial. And it's my understanding, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that this is based upon the recommendation of our planning commission. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I've spoken to them, and that's what this is. This is just clearing up any type of issues that may occur for Ingalls to get this. It's final, but we're tying up loose ends, and this is one of the loose ends we're tying up in case there's any question.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor of the ordinance, raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And the ordinance passes unanimously. Moving on to new business. Item number 3, the announcement of a new fire chief. As many of you are aware, David Huff, who is a volunteer at the West Pelzer Fire Department, has agreed to accept the position of fire chief for the town of Williamston, and he will begin his job effective on June the 28th. So congratulations to Chief Huff. Moving on, item number 4, a resolution honoring Dr. Harold Mackey. And I will read this ordinance in its entirety. Whereas on June 2nd, 2021, the life of our beloved former council member, Dr. Mackey, came to an untimely end, whereas Dr. Harold Mackey was courteous and considerate of the welfare of others and performed the duties of his office as councilman of Ward 1 faithfully and efficiently for many years, and whereas as a man, father, educator, and former town representative, he leaves behind a legacy of good citizenship, whereas his death leaves this town mourning the loss of a man of loyalty, courage, wisdom, knowledge, compassion, and dedication, now therefore be it resolved that this council, speaking on behalf of the entire community, hereby records our expression of profound grief and regret, and does hereby convey to his family our sympathy in the form of this resolution adopted by unanimous vote of the town council on June 7th, 2021. We have a motion to accept the resolution as presented.
I make a motion that we accept this resolution in honor of Dr. Harold J. Mackey.
We have a motion by Councilman Haygood. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Councilwoman Alston. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And it is unanimously approved. Moving on to the next item. Item number 5, first reading of an ordinance to rezone property off Mahaffey Road. And I will just read this by title only. It says, an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the town of Williamston to rezone property off Mahaffey Road bearing Anderson County TMS number 24500080008. And basically what this is, there is a piece of property owned by the town off Mahaffey Road that is currently zoned I-2 Industrial Park, and we're wanting to change that to multifamily residential. Do I hear a motion to accept the ordinance?
So moved.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Alston. Do you second, Mayor Burgess?
Second.
We have a second by Mayor Burgess. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the ordinance passes, first reading passes unanimously. Item number 6, first reading of an ordinance to abandon a portion of Pelzer Avenue. And again, this one is very lengthy, so I will just read it by title only. It says, an ordinance to abandon and close a portion of Pelzer Street, aka Pelzer Avenue, and to convey the town's interest in Pelzer Street to Ingalls Markets Incorporated. Rain, would you like to briefly explain this one?
Yes, I believe it was Wednesday night, I received an email, either Wednesday or Thursday, from Dan Hicks regarding, this is again, tying up loose ends with Eagles property of what just transpired. There were still some questions regarding the ownership of the road, and we wanted to make sure, because the title insurance company, Chicago Title, would not sign off on it until we do an official abandonment of the property through the court system. And so part of this is what we're doing here, is this is the ordinance is saying, hey, we're going to turn over and abandon anything, any interest we have, or potentially interest we may have had in this property. I think we've already been over, I believe was handling a lot of that, and I think it was ad nauseum, went through it and says, hey, we're giving everything to y'all, but they still want more. So that's what this is doing, is we're trying to finish it up. This ordinance here, while it says, most people around here call it Pelzer Avenue, they listed on the official paperwork as Pelzer Street, which is what's also known as Pelzer Avenue. I went through 3 revisions of that today with Mr. Hicks in Atlanta to get the verbiage the way they wanted. So that's why this is the way it is, after several revisions. And basically, all we're going to do is I'm starting the official process of closing the road legally. It takes a petition. We have to do a couple of things. One is we have to run a notice, which I brought with me today to run in the journal. We have to put a sign out saying we're closing this road. We also have to notify the adjacent landowners, who would be the Holcomb major people, who will, assuming will write off a letter stating, hey, we don't oppose the abandonment. And the reason why it's done in a couple of ways, exhibit parcel 5 and parcel 6, that's on the official plat that was filed. And then to make sure there was no other questions, we also did it as the piece of property located on the TMS numbers, just to try to cover everything, to try to make them happy and finish it. So that's all this is regarding that. We're tying up loose ends, and once the notice is run, and once we put out the notice in front of the street, that will be using exhibits, and then I will officially file the actual paperwork. I've already drafted the petition to file with the circuit court to officially close.
And for further clarification, We're not closing the whole road.
No.
This is just the portion that is in the parking lot of the shopping center.
That's correct. And the description's in there, it goes to Main Street to, where the part of the town owns, or did own, on Pelzer Street that terminates at Main Street. That's that portion that Williamston had some interest in, or may have had some interest in. That's the only portion we're talking about. And that's why it's listed 5 and 6, parcel 5 and 6, because it coincides with the official plat.
Okay. Thank you, Rain. Any more discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Oh, we didn't do that already? Okay. Do I have a motion that we accept the ordinance as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Haygood. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Cole. Any discussion? Hearing none, I call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the motion passes unanimously. All right, at this time, I will make a motion that we amend. What?
Yeah, I've got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm ready to get out of here, aren't I? Sorry.
And Lee, do you have some information on that last item?
I emailed everybody today. I thought I copied you as well, but maybe not.
All right, item 7 is first reading of an ordinance regulating deliveries. And Councilman Cole, would you like to kind of explain this?
Yes, what this has come up as a result of many complaints that I know I personally have received some complaints. I believe some of the other council members and the mayor have received complaints, and town staff have received complaints regarding unsolicited written materials being thrown in driveways and yards and in the road on vacant properties everywhere else. And we've had some issues in actually contacting the publishers of these materials in order to request, for property owners to be able to request to opt out of getting these materials. So looking into this matter, and the town attorney has looked into it as well, that there is, we do have some First Amendment issues that the courts have ruled, basically have said that a person has a right to take unsolicited materials to somebody's house, but the courts have allowed for certain restrictions to be put on that. And this ordinance that I have presented today is almost identical to an ordinance that was passed in Lexington, Kentucky, that the United States Court of Appeals has upheld, where most ordinances like this, most ordinances that have tried to do something like this have been struck down by the courts. And what this ordinance would do is it restricts just unsolicited written material. So it's not, if you order something or you have a subscription to a newspaper or anything in the mail is completely exempt from this. This is only unsolicited. So if somebody wants to bring you something, deliver something to your home that you have not asked for, then this would restrict them to be able to only do that by placing it on your porch, placing it, attaching it to your front door, or hand delivering it to a person who is the owner or occupier of the property, or putting it in a newspaper receptacle or other receptacle if you have one that's not your mailbox. And any other than that, they cannot put, no one will be able to put unsolicited materials on anyone else's property. So this would eliminate being the issues of litter and blight that we've seen being thrown in yards and thrown in the road and thrown in vacant lots and things like that. So this was the best that I thought that from my research that I thought we could try to do to try to address this issue that seems to be getting worse and worse. And as our population continues to grow, we'll probably continue to get worse. So I would ask the council to consider and pass this ordinance.
All right, do we have a motion to A motion to, all right, we have a motion by Councilman Burgess. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Haygood. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I believe I understood, at least part of what Lee was, explaining on the ordinance. I support that wholeheartedly. If you don't mind though, if you'll take just a quick moment to inform the public about what I've got working with, ANS Solutions, which is the one we're currently having issues with, as far as a portal that I expect to have active by the end of the week.
Okay, I'll do that. What Mayor Burgess is referring to is the company that is responsible for the free newspapers that you're getting that are wrapped in the blue plastic. They have a website they can set up for us for free. There's no charge to the town, and it gives citizens the option to just, they type in their address, their name and address, and it removes them from the system, so they will not get any free newspapers from this company. So that's how it works. And you said they could have it up and running by the end of the week?
They give me a 3-day timeline, Mr. Chairman. So I expect it would be up and running by Friday. We'll share a link on our social media pages as well as possibly the town website once that comes up. Keep in mind, this was an act of Congress to try to even reach out to be able to get in touch with somebody. I've tried, I think Councilman Cole has tried many times to reach out to someone in charge and have them to get some type of lockdown phone number, link, or something like that. And I was just able to receive that information today. This has been weeks and weeks of trying. So they don't offer this up normally. This is something, once they've received so many complaints, they evidently decided to be a little proactive on it. So that's where we're at.
Okay. And they also shared, I think, 4 different links to towns in, I think it was Ohio or Indiana or somewhere, that had this set up, and they shared those links with us. And it's a very simple web page. It's just, you just enter your information into some fields and you hit submit, and it puts you in the do not deliver free newspaper list. So that was pretty much how it worked. Is there any more discussion? I would like to make a motion that we table this for 1 month and let's see how this website works. I'll make that in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second by Councilwoman Alston. Is there any discussion on the motion to table?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm in favor of that. I was not aware of this website until just hearing about it from the mayor. I know that's been something that's been worked on day by day. I think that I'd like to see how this works, but I think it still may be an issue with other providers in the future, maybe something we need to address. But I would, it's my understanding, your motion is just to table it to next month, not table it indefinitely. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I'm in favor of that.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
What is the ordinance, even if the website portal for the opt-out fixes our immediate problem, the ordinance would still address the issue of the paper being unsolicited and deposited in people's yards. It would require them to be placed on the porch or at a newspaper carrier or a door hanger or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lee, that there's still an advantage to passing this ordinance other than just ability to opt out.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Mayor, I believe that's my opinion as well, that it would, I think it merits further discussion at least by the council, even if this does address the most immediate problem.
Any more discussion?
I'll also, make sure everybody's aware that we just got that information today, so, that's the reason it has not been distributed out to all the council members yet. We're literally in the process of it as we speak.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, I call for the question. All in favor to table this ordinance until next month, say aye.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. All right, at this time, I will make a motion to amend our agenda to vote on the approval to allow alcohol to be sold during the evening entertainment concert hours of the Springwater Festival on both Friday and Saturday. Do I hear, I make that as a form of a motion to amend the agenda. Is there a second?
A second.
We have a second by Councilwoman Alston. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, if you're in favor of amending the agenda to allow us to vote, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and we have voted unanimously to amend the agenda. So the item is, like I said, voting to approve alcohol sales during the Springwater Festival during concert hours on both Friday and Saturday of this year. Is there a motion to?
I move that we accepted, to serve alcohol during evening hours, Friday and Saturday, Springwater Festival.
All right, we have a motion by Mayor Burgess. Is there a second?
A second.
We have a second by Councilwoman Alston. Is there any discussion?
Yes, discussion. Mr. Meeks, two questions. First, the designated area, again.
Okay. Designated area would be directly in front of the amphitheater stage. We plan to put up some kind of road or some kind of tape or something marking the area off. And also plan to have somebody at each of the, if we go back past the sidewalk, that's some point back there, and we would have two people placed on the sidewalk to tell people, you know, you're not allowed to take alcohol past this point. We're not gonna let people walk around with a can of Budweiser, you know, in the festival area. And it'd be very restricted and only, to the, craft beers that are being sold from that vendor in that area. The vendor would be set up on the concrete platform next to the stage in that area.
Okay. Now, is there, and it is a designated time as well, right? In the late evening hours?
6 to 10 basically is what we're talking about.
6 to 10? Okay. Now, and I have to ask this question too. Will there be a limit on how many drinks, you know, one person can consume, can purchase?
I think so, Councilman. I don't have the details on that. I'm still working with the vendor to get that information. Most events like that, they do place some type of limit. I've seen it 2 per person or whatever. So I can bring more information back to council at some point if I need to. That's my understanding. Yes, there will be.
Yeah, I would, and for myself, I guess, I would love to have that information there in order to feel comfortable with going forward, you know, if that's the majority vote.
Do you know if you're still planning on using a third-party vendor to control all of this, to sell the bracelets, to regulate everything?
That's my understanding. I'm still trying to get information from him on the exact details. But we're fairly sure that all that would be handled through that vendor.
And
Of course, we would have people at entry points along the sidewalk. Remind people.
Okay. And the event, see, is what, July?
It is August 27th.
August 20, okay. All right, see, so therefore, and the reason I ask again is there wouldn't be a problem with tabling this tonight, and we'll still have enough, and you bring back that information, and we'll still have an ample amount of time to vote, to have it in place if approved.
I can provide more details on that.
Okay.
Do you have a certain time frame that you need to have information back to your vendor so you can confirm that you want to book them for the event?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I need to be in touch with that vendor. I've got, another person working on that, the details, and we're trying to coordinate.
And even though it seems old-fashioned, but there's certainly of alcohol in the midst of a town park, that's a very touchy subject.
I understand completely, and it's been a topic we've discussed, our spring mark committee has discussed in depth. We feel pretty comfortable with it. We basically had a unanimous vote when we brought it up and voted on it. And that was 9 or 10 committee members.
And I'm sure that professional vendors, we're not gonna have people walking around with bottles and cans.
No. I believe it'll be uncut, but I need to get more details on that, give you exact details on that.
Any more discussion?
By way of discussion too, I would just comment that I understand Councilman Haygood's concerns. However, our state laws and ordinances would be in effect. So, of course, there's laws against disorderly conduct, ordinances regarding open containers on public streets, ordinance regarding public drunkenness would all remain in effect. So, even if there was not most of these places do have, I think, a limit of what they will sell due to the liability that they have if they overserve someone. But even without that specifically, I believe that there would be enough. We have enough legal recourse to solve any problems that might come up. And may I ask for Mr. Mead? You said here you're just doing craft beer. Is it a possibility that you'll do wine as well?
Again, I'm sorry I can't provide the actual details that you all are asking for. But I can do that. I'll have that information by the next council meeting if you need that.
Well, what I was thinking is if I don't want to me and some of the other councilmen may have an opinion on this, but I don't see a difference in the other. I wouldn't want to restrict you to beer if unduly restrict you and have to come back and vote again. I don't know if the mayor's motion was restricted to beer or if it was just to allow alcohol, period. I can't remember.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, what was the question? I could barely hear, but I just want to understand what was that.
Councilman Cole wants to know, was your motion to allow the sale of alcohol or the sale of just beer? He was inquiring about wine.
Okay, so let me rephrase that. It should be beer and or wine. I'm not sure if they will serve wine or not, if it'll be available, but for sure, beer. There will be no liquor for spirits.
Okay, and is that still your second, Councilwoman Austin? Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Let me also add, this will be a heavily regulated event. In other words, there will be specific areas where alcohol can be served. You do not leave that area. And again, state statutes will be in effect, as well as the folks who are doing the distribution. They do this pretty regularly in other municipalities around, so they know what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. We'll have law enforcement there on site, and clearly delineated areas of where you can and cannot have alcohol. Playground and kids areas will definitely be an area that will be off limits.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, I call for the question. All in favor of allowing alcohol sales, beer and wine at the Spring Water Festival, say aye or raise your hand. And opposed? And the vote
If you're busy, please try your call again later. Announcement 839-10.
And the vote passes 4 to 1. 4 to 1. Okay. I believe that brings us to an end. Is there anything else? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. My apologies. I guess I need to try to call him back. All right, hold on a second. Okay, I'm putting you back on speaker. The vote passed 4 to 1. We're moving on to something else. Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion to amend the agenda? And I apologize. I guess we should have did this when we did the budget, and I did not. Sorry.
Wait a second. We're all learning.
Do I hear a motion to amend the budget to allow for additional funds for the cemetery committee and the Boo in the Park and the historical commission?
Circuits are busy.
Oh,
Please try your
man.
call.
We're having issues because this long screen keeps stopping and starting, it's telling me it's slow, I need to stop it. So it's.
Wonder if it's a storm.
Yeah.
Should I try to call him back?
He wants to be a part of the vote on that.
We can fill him in.
Did you make a motion to amend the agenda?
I'm asking for a motion to amend, I'm asking for a motion to amend the agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion to amend the agenda by Councilman Haygood. Is there a second? I will second the motion. All in favor, raise your hand, or say aye, or raise your hand.
Of amending.
Of
To amend the
amending motion.
agenda.
All right. All right, is there a motion to modify or amend the budget to account for extra funds for the cemetery committee, Boo in the Park, and the historical commission?
I'm sorry, Chris, can you repeat that?
Yeah, I'm looking for a motion to amend the budget to include additional funding for the cemetery committee, Boo in the Park, and the historical commission.
And these funds are not available in the existing budget?
This is the way, all of this would be hospitality budget, but as we stand right now, she's asking for 600 for Candy. She's already got 550 in the budget. 550 is in there for her.
So that's just an additional $50.
It's just $50.
Right.
But then she's wanting 650 for repairs. That's nowhere in there. So that would be something that y'all would have to vote on. And then the $3,500 is not in the budget at all.
Okay.
I would love some time for us to discuss this.
I was gonna ask that same thing. Do you think that's something that we actually need to discuss in one of our budget sessions? So that we can possibly get some itemized, maybe an itemized list as to what's going to be done, you know? And this is not an effort not to, to try to deny the request. It's just for verification as to, to itemize what it's actually going to be used for.
Would you like to make that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I would like to make that in the form of a motion that we table this request upon going to our next work session, and as soon as possible, get her the information that she needs.
Are we making that motion to table this for
To
all
table
of
it.
the budget concerns that have been brought to question?
Those three.
Just, yeah, those
Those
three.
three items.
Those three, yes.
We have a motion from Councilman Haygood.
A second.
We have a second from Councilwoman Austin. Is there any discussion on the tabling?
When do you think you could get us the information on what you plan on doing, the repairs to the hut, and also for the cemetery committee, what the plans are for that money?
Well, I can tell you now, I mean, Julie Cole had pictures that she presented to Chris Alexander and to Rocky at the, you made it in there, at the work session. Some of the stuff we were gonna do in the cemetery. And it's, you know, a lot of the people over there has passed, they have no one to, if their stone has fell over, needs repair, nobody's living in that family to do that. We've been fixing it up and I've got a guy, that is working on welding some of the fence back already. That's on us though, that part is, because it was before we came to y'all and asked for help. But we need a lot of people, you would be surprised how many people comes to that Williamston cemetery, and because it is a historic cemetery. And even the ones that still have loved ones alive, they come and visit that. And so we try to do the upkeep on that cemetery. And if you haven't been through there, you need to go through and take a look. That's what that money was for the cemetery committee. Now, as far as the hut, the money I'm asking for, the $650, is to repair, and you said you've seen it.
Yes, I've seen it, yes.
Repair the shutters, all the shutters, anybody could bust in there. And we got things in there we don't want to mess with. That's to take the old off, put new up. We got a lot of patchwork to do in there, and a lot of little creatures roaming around. One of our members had to set her cracker down, her pack of crackers. We went out to look, we come back a month ago. I mean, so we gotta have that problem taken care of.
Do you think it's possible that me and you can get together and we can go down there and look at it and just make us a list? Maybe we'll get back with the mayor. If it's within our purchasing policy, if we have to maybe bid the job out, if it's going to be that big. But if not, we could possibly just find somebody local to come and give us an itemized price list as to what it's going to cost to rectify all the situation with the hut, and then present that as a request. Does that make sense?
Most definitely.
Okay.
I would like to have an answer, and I'll give it to you way before then, but I've got
Okay.
a business trip to go on
Okay.
at the end of the month, and I'll be gone for 10 days. So I would like to know something.
Okay.
Before then, before the end of the month.
Okay. And let me ask, now what ward are you in? 4? Okay. So if it's okay, then I'll communicate with her. I'll go through you. And that way I won't be overstepping my boundaries, just trying to be helpful.
Well, you both can do it, it doesn't matter.
Okay. That's okay.
Any more discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem, very briefly, and want to address this discussion and Ms. Owens' comments. What we discussed in the work session last week, and we've discussed this, I believe, at the first reading of our budget ordinance this year, is that what the mayor, I know the mayor has stated his intention, and I believe most of the council's intention is for hospitality funds to move from just an amount that gets given to organizations each year to a project-based amount, to where organizations come and, for example, like this, say we want to do this and this to the cemetery, and then and get the money that way. So maybe it's not all done at the beginning of the budget year, but it's done throughout the year as projects come open. And we have budgeted in this year's cycle a specific amount for contingency for those types of things and a specific amount for capital improvements. So it would be in future discussion on this, obviously for the additional, for the candy, I wouldn't have, I'd be in favor of that. But for the repairs, my recommendation would be for the committees to speak to the mayor about using some of the funds that are already allocated for capital improvements to be able to make those repairs. And also, we encourage, we understand that the budgets are tight for everybody, and I say we, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, I don't presume to speak on behalf of anybody else, that different groups, it's my understanding that different groups have money in the bank. And I understand the fear of if we spend the money down, we may not get it in the future. But I know at least personally, I support, I will support the parks, I'll support the cemetery, but I want to see, I'd want to see a clear need for it. And if there's X amount in the bank and say if you had X amount in the bank and you're asking for 3,500 when you could spend that amount from what you have already, then to me, there's not the clear need that is a present need right now. So that's what, the way I would look at that. But that's just my opinion, and I would look forward to further discussion on this.
Any more discussion?
Well, I can definitely tell you in the HUD fund, you're looking at like $108. That's it, in the HUD fund. We cannot do anything really to improve what we need to improve. That wouldn't even start.
Do y'all keep records of how you spent the money?
Oh, yes, we know how we spent. And that's got a brand new floor, that we had put in that hut. That hut was gonna be torn down until we done such a fit by one of the former mayors that, we wasn't gonna have that. That's history now. And, so we worked, and we got, I think some of this flooring come out of an old mill. And it looks good. You'd never think it was in a mill.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Doing the budget and stuff, Tony was kind of touching on that. I mean, and I don't care whether y'all give it a 650 or not, but the clear needs that they have, I'm kind of like what Tony was saying, to take it a step further. Technically, we let them kind of run it, but it's the town's hut. Ultimately, why don't we get somebody to fix it, whether it be Gary Cotton, bid it out, bid it out, get somebody local, and then then you don't have to worry about keeping up with paperwork and bringing it back, because it's ours, it's the town.
Well, and
Now, the cemetery, that's a
Yeah.
whole different animal, but the hut is right there in the park.
but that may actually benefit them as well if the bids come back way higher than the 650
Yeah,
that she was
exactly,
asking for, just
exactly.
with cost being so high right now.
And I look at it too, that the cemetery, the HUD and even the cemetery, I would think could be possibly, those capital improvement expenses could be possibly utilized, but that would be in the discretion of the mayor and following our purchasing policy and ultimately the council.
Yeah.
See, when we fought to keep it from being torn down, we was allowed to do what we wanted to with it. In other words, we didn't want, when we put the floors in there, we didn't want people, a lot of people to rent it out and all that. No, that's not, it's for people to come through and see the history there. And they told us, well, y'all look after it. At that time when we were doing everything, we thought we did keep it from being torn down.
Well, you still have control, what I'm saying, you still have that control, we would just be spending the money on it instead of having to go write a check and bring back receipts. I mean, that's my thought.
Debbie?
I'm pretty sure that's what Mayor Burgess would want also, what Michelle's talking about.
Yeah.
Because he's well aware of the problem over there. He's seen the shutters that are going up. He's.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second to table this until next month. And I don't think there's anything on here that's so pressing that it can't wait until next month. So, is there any more discussion before we vote?
do you have to table that? I'd like to be here when we decide something.
Well, we have a motion and a second. We need to vote to table. Any more discussion? I call for the question. All in favor of tabling this until next month, say aye. And it passes unanimously. Is there anything else from council?
Okay, but after, but by tabling it until next month, then there will be a work session before the next meeting. And so a decision can be reached, correct me if I'm wrong, a decision can be reached before that time, and then once you come back for that, the July meeting.
Well, we can't decide anything in the
I was
work
saying we
session.
can't take action.
But we can talk about it,
Yes,
and we
but
can be more informed.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
the reason I asked, I will not be here till after the 10th of July. And that's why I'm hoping we can get together.
Is there anyone else that we can speak with that would represent your groups that could be present maybe at those meetings?
I can talk with them and see.
Would that suffice?
And I don't understand why, and you can obtain that information through your council
Okay.
as well,
All right.
if that's okay.
Any more
I'm sorry.
discussion? Oh, we voted. We voted already. Okay. Anything else?
They should go.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Oh, what you need?
Quickly, as I want to say to the town of Williamston, as the second African-American councilman here in the town of Williamston, I would personally like to say thank you to everyone here, to the residents here of the town of Williamston, for embracing Dr. Harold J. Mackey, the first African-American councilman in the town of Williamston. I sincerely thank you, and thank you for the prayers that have went out on his behalf. I pray that you will continue to pray for his daughter and myself as well as his godson. And we just pray that our town continue to move forward and continue to remember him in the days to come. And so I sincerely say thank you to the town of Williamston.
Amen. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Austin. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned.